Oh, we're live.
Oye, Miami, the market's on fire. To buy, to sell, to hold takes you higher. With Zalewski and Hernandez, you know the sound. Ya tú sabes.
Happy Friday, Miami. This is Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant. I'm also the founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. You are tuning in live for Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast from a local perspective about the Miami and South Florida real estate market. I'm joined by my co-host and the moderator of the discussion, Daniel Hernandez. Daniel is a real estate professional. He works over at Compass Real Estate. He's over in Coconut Grove. He focuses on single-family houses as well as condos. Daniel, there is the baton. Let's run.
I got it. What's up, Peter? Happy Friday. Welcome. This is episode number 2020. It is also, I'd like to point out, my grandfather's 97th birthday.
Well done. Good DNA.
97.
Well done.
If I could only be so lucky. For those of you who haven't joined us today, as Peter said, this is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. What we are is a 1-hour real estate talk show. If somebody sent you this link, thank your friend for sending them. But we got you guys here for 60 minutes. And what do we do on the show? So throughout the week, Peter and I, we bash articles back and forth, and we come up with 5. And so with those 5, we allocate about 7 minutes to each one. And at the end of each topic, we're either going to buy, sell, or hold. Because we don't know, because we're adults and we can change our minds, we can agree, we can disagree. But with that, let's jump right into it. Hey, Peter, you're a big data guy, right? Big data guy. And so
Data.
First Friday of every month, big report comes out from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Well, if you've been watching anything, really, you probably know that there was a government shutdown at the end of the month, September 30th, just a few days ago. And part of that shutdown is no report, no labor report from the BLS. Despite that, because that's a public market report. So that's a report that gets published on the first Friday of every month, I think at around 8:30, 9:30 Eastern time. And that's data that folks use to determine interest rates, which are very relevant for our industry. But in lieu of those numbers, there's also private market data, ADP, some other benchmarking HR analytics firms. And if you look at that data, historically, it kind of correlates to the BLS data. And Peter, it doesn't look great, does it?
It does not look great. And keep in mind, the Federal Reserve, this is the Central Bank of the United States. This is run by Jerome Powell. From this point forward, I would call him Old Man Powell, as anybody who's watched this podcast knows. So Old Man Powell, because he runs the Federal Reserve, the Central Bank of the United States, and it has 12 regional banks set up around Miami, is a branch under Atlanta, which reports ultimately to Washington for anybody keeping track at home. So Old Man Powell and the Federal Reserve, they have a dual mandate. One is to make sure they have maximum employment. The other one is to keep inflation under 2%. Right now, neither's going in the right direction. And today, numbers were supposed to be released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which, by the way, in August, the head of it was fired simply because the numbers came out at 8:30 in the morning. President Donald Trump did not like the numbers, so he fired her. He blew her up by 3 o'clock that afternoon. So the replacement, the temporary who's in place, was supposed to be releasing numbers, but we get a government shutdown. Therefore, numbers aren't coming out. So if you were Old Man Powell from the Federal Reserve, how are you going to make a decision about how to go forward on interest rates if you only have information on one of the sectors, which is inflation? And by the way, that'll be coming out in 2 weeks. So if the
Open Market Committee meets in 2 weeks.
Meets in 2 weeks. So if the central bank cannot get in, they haven't got information on the jobs market, which is what they rely on. Remember, dual mandate. One is jobs, right. The other one's inflation. So they don't have the jobs number. Yep, for October. And what happens if the government's still shut down come the next Federal Open Markets Committee, which is where the people vote to decide, do you raise rates, do you keep them steady, or do you reduce them? Now, suddenly, you're basically stabbing in the dark, and that's where we stand today as we enter the fourth quarter of 2020.
So What would you do, Peter, if you had no extra data? Do you just not change interest rates?
Well, Wall Street is expecting two more rate cuts, the meeting in October in 2 weeks, and then a meeting in December. There's no meeting in November because we get in the holiday process. We have Thanksgiving. If you're watching this abroad, it's typically the last Thursday of the month of
Third
November.
Thursday.
Therefore, third Thursday. There you go. So we're not going to have a November meeting, but in theory, Wall Street expects interest rate cut probably 25 basis points in this month in October, and another 25 when we get into December. But keep in mind, a recent addition to the Federal Reserve, he actually wants 5 more rate cuts. But if it's me, if I'm old man Powell, if I'm old man Zalewski, I'm not doing a thing because I
You are
simply
old
don't have
man
information.
Zalewski.
I'm not doing a thing if I don't have information
Well,
coming
you don't
in.
have the data. What do you're operating on expectation? No.
Yeah, but I might want to appease someone who in
Appease who?
power.
You think old man Powell's trying to appease anybody? He's out of the job in May.
But if somebody's up my ass threatening to fire me and taking a look at some kind of remodeling that I'm doing at these old buildings to try to bring them up to par and have them represent really what the Federal Reserve and Central Bank of the United States is supposed to be, maybe I would bend the knee. If it were me, I wouldn't do it. I keep everything steady. You don't give me more information, I don't give you an answer. So I'm status quo unless I get more information. Because remember, they're data dependent. The Federal Reserve is data dependent. We hear it over and over and over, data dependent. You don't have the data. How are you going to make a decision?
No, you got to keep the status quo. Don't pull the lever. I mean, or you're relying on quasi-reliable private market data. I mean, wow, the administration would love that. Just relying on private. We just privatize all the data sources.
And it's so true. Well, you mentioned the unemployment
Look, the
rate.
economy is doing great. We don't even have BLS, and look, everyone's buying houses. Which,
I don't think
by the way,
inflation either. There's no inflation.
No. No, go to the supermarket. Soybeans, yeah, for a different podcast, but I'm sure you read about that. But if we remember last month when they met, when the Open Market Committee met and gave us a 25 basis point dip, pulled the lever, what happened to interest rates? They went up.
Mortgage rates went up the day before Jerome Powell cut rates, which is 17th
So
of
the
September.
market anticipated mortgage rates took a dip, then he announced it, and the 30-year fix went up. So,
but why did they go up? But they went up because of the
10-year Treasury yield.
Well, yeah, but Jerome Powell was focused on inflation, getting it down to 2%. We got as low as 2.3%, and then now we're north of 2.9%. Jeffrey Gundlach, who's a bond trader, they call him the bond king, he's anticipating we're going to end the year at 3.3%. And the Fed is focused on inflation because we all remember during the pandemic, 9.1% was the high on the inflation rate. So old man Powell likes to focus on one thing at a time. He couldn't get inflation under control, and why did he pivot? Because he's got some bad, shockingly bad news coming on the job market side in terms of growth. Therefore, he said, listen, I'm not all done with this, but let me go ahead and switch over here. And that's what spooked, I would argue, the 10-year Treasury. And that's why mortgage rates are actually higher today than they were before the rate cut. And they're coming in, by the way, I'm looking at mortgage Mortgage News Daily, 6.34%.
6.34. I was going to say 6.38. But explain something to me and to our loyal viewers. So are we at the precipice of a stagflation scenario?
Well, stagflation is basically you can't get a job and everything costs more.
Well, so Jerome Powell said it. I mean it's not. Well, if Jerome Powell said it, I guess it's on the record and it does make it official. But he said something. We have a low hiring, low firing environment. And so I looked into this. What does that mean? So it's labor hoarding, meaning that it's a certain amount of cautiousness in the economy. People aren't firing their employees because, well, it could all turn around right now, and then it also costs money to rehire and train these people. So it's like we're not going to do mass layoffs, so we're not in a recession, but also there's a cooling demand for workers, so we're not hiring at a rapid clip if we're going up. Which, by the way, yesterday Dow Jones all-time high, despite everything going on.
Well, Wall Street loves when you eliminate employees. If you eliminate employees, in theory, if productivity goes up, you got a higher profit margin. That's assuming people are buying stuff. I go to the grocery store.
But are people buying stuff?
Well, if you look at some of
If
the
you look at consumer
public,
credit card debt, yeah, sure.
but repos are going up. FICO scores are coming down. There's a lot of troubling. I mean, an economist was talking yesterday on CNBC. He described the current state of the economy as a K. So the upper half, I think of a capital K. So
Okay.
it'd be, the
Okay.
upper half is doing extremely well, and the lower half is basically in the gutter, and that's where we're going. So it's
We're
diverging.
diverging.
It's yeah. So we're diverging, and this is it's a very challenging time because there's a lot more people with less than there is people with more, and that's ultimately what we're up against. And if you're one of these fat cats who's in the upper 50%, you're dependent upon the people down at the bottom basically to keep your engine going. And if these people aren't buying stuff, or if they're using, it used to be called layaway. What's it called now? Like Clara and some of these
But
companies.
no, buy now, pay later.
Buy now, pay later. Yeah. Well, increasingly you're hearing about people buying the smallest things on this buy now, pay later.
Oh,
I'm
you
not going to
can
say
do
it's,
anything with buy now, pay later now. It used to be
and
just like vacations and big purchases, and now I think you can put your groceries on what buy now, pay later, BNPL.
That's right. That's right. So that's kind of the state, and everybody's stuck. We don't know where we're going to go because you don't know what the latest is going to be on the tariffs. You don't know what's going to happen with the economy. You don't know if the government is going to reopen. You don't know if you're one of those supposed 750,000 people who work for the federal government who might actually lose their job permanently, which is what
Right.
some of the claims are coming out talking about. So there's so much uncertainty, and typically in times of uncertainty, what do? You sit on the sidelines and you wait. You wait for some sort of clearer visibility. Think of Miami. Think of the Miami River and Biscayne Bay, right there where they meet. So on the south side, you're going to have Brickell Key. As you move a little bit inland, you're going to have Miami Circle. You have Icon Brickell. The other side, you're going to have one Miami. You have the Hotel Intercontinental. You have the Aston Martin. So right there, where the bay's meeting the river, the bay is salt. The river is fresh water, sweet water, if you will. When those two come together, if you're in the water snorkeling or diving, you can't see anything. It's brackish, and that's really where we are right now. We're stuck right there. Nobody has visibility. And when you don't have visibility, you pop your head up and you say, okay, let me sit on the side and let it clear up a little bit. That's what I would argue.
So buy, sell, hold on no labor data, no problem.
I would be a
If
sell because I think it's a major problem.
it's a big problem, no data,
No data.
big
I mean,
problem.
you're a pilot. You're flying without radar, and you're basing it on what you can see in front of you, and
Well,
it's probably
a
not a
bad
good
analogy.
situation.
You saw what happened at LaGuardia Wednesday night. They could see everything, and they just
That's true,
it
but
was.
that's
And then
operator error.
I don't know. That's for another day. I tend to agree with you. I'm selling. No data is bad. You brought up FICO scores though, Peter. So everybody who's watching, anybody who's ever taken out a loan for anything, we know a lot of people here aren't homeowners, you're renters, but even if you're not taking out a mortgage, if you've leased a car, if you have a credit card, you can go onto your app and you can see your FICO score. That's FICO, and that stands for the Fair Isaac Corporation. They've had a monopoly on this credit rating score. It ranges from 350 to 800, right? I think
Yep.
most people have a score somewhere between 600 and 750. I actually don't know what the median is. But
Oh, well,
there's
I
a
think the cutoff is like 620 between sub and prime. So
right,
620.
subprime.
Yep. Yep.
So, but there's a new kid on the block, and it's called the Vantage Score. And I guess the latest iteration of it is the Vantage Score 4.0. They had Vantage Score 1, nobody cared. 2, I guess less people cared. 3, they're kind of making waves. And 4, now Fannie and Freddie said, we'll accept the Vantage Score. And it's interesting, and it's kind of convoluted, or one could even say there's some collusion going on. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but and correct me if I'm wrong, Peter. So FICO is the Fair Isaac Corporation. They sell the score to the lender. But how do they get the data? And the data comes from 3 organizations largely. It comes from Experian, TransUnion, and what's the other one? Equifax. Everybody knows Equifax because they had the big hack a few years back, and however many hundreds of millions of people had their wares out on the dark web, and Equifax had to come back and say, we're going to give you all free credit reporting. And that's part of the big reason why, if you open up your credit card app today, You used to have to pay to look at your credit score. You have to pull it, and it would cost you, I don't know, however many dollars, but you had to pay to see your credit score. And now it's basically free. Anybody can see it. Interestingly enough, so as Peter and I were farting around with the data, did you know that the price of a FICO score pull has increased 650% since 2018? And that
No, I did not.
correlates that increase actually correlates quite nicely with FICO's share price. Remember, they're a monopoly. You don't get the BICO score or the PICO score. It's always and forever, since the beginning of time, since modern history of the mortgage, it's been the FICO score, Fair Isaac Corporation. And so their monopolistic situation has caused their stock price to skyrocket. And in the last 7 years, the price of these credit scores of this report has skyrocketed. And I know you might think, okay, it used to be 60 cents, now it's $4.50. Big whoop. How many people buy houses across the country? And that's, by the way, the score, the price that they sell to the lender. What do you think the lender resells it? What do you think they put on your Alta, on your HUD when you go to close? You're not paying $4.50. You might be paying $30, you might be paying $40, you might be paying $50, $60, and that's on every single real estate transaction. So I think it's a great thing that this competitor comes out. But the competitor, and just to make it even crazier, the competitor is a product by Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So not only are they the data providers to FICO, so they're selling FICO data so that they can come up with a score, they said, wait a minute, we're going to make our own score. So now I guess it's a duopoly?
Yes. I mean, think of it this way. It's Zelle. Anybody who knows
Great
Venmo, Cash
example.
App, anything like that, well, all the banks got together and like, dude, why is this other company in the middle when we can be doing it? Because all the money's being transferred from our bank account into a different account in our bank, and we're not wetting our beak on it. So they went ahead and they created Zelle. It's the same scenario from my perspective. From a real simpleton perspective, I'm not really into the details of all this, but that's effectively what it is. So the industry version versus, let's say, the Consumer Reports version. I don't know if you remember Consumer Reports, but it was an entity. Basically, you would come in there, you
Sure.
collect information,
They're
and
still around. I don't think
yeah,
they're heavily prolific anymore, but yeah.
but it's the same type of idea. Do you want an independent, or you want something that's a company town type of perspective? And that's basically what it comes down to.
You know what other industry did this was Hollywood did this. When YouTube was first getting started, everybody was reposting or cutting movie trailers and music videos and putting them up on YouTube, and they were making money on the ad revenue sharing with YouTube. And then all the music studios got together and was like, wait a minute, we want to make the money off of our music videos. So they created Vivo, VEVO. And so Vivo is that joint venture between all of the record labels, so that when you go on YouTube and you search a music video, you see the industry official music video instead of Peter Zalewski's bootleg copy of the new Taylor Swift music video, which I'm
Oh, I
sure
didn't
you
realize
got a
that.
lot of those, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm a big Swiftie.
You pre-downloaded the album. It released last night at midnight. You know that, right? Big
Oh,
news.
I
I
did
mean,
not know that, but I didn't know what you said about the industry getting together and forming their own to compete with YouTube. I
it's
had no idea.
inevitable in
Yeah.
any industry, really. Like I find it kind of amazing that it took the credit rating agencies to this long to get their crap together.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a tremendous business. FICO is incredibly profitable. I mean, they don't release an iPhone every year. Like they don't make anything. It's just taking data from here to here, doing a little formula, and then presenting it to the big lenders.
And they have the historical information, which I think is probably the utmost importance. If you can go all the way back for basically the lifetime of somebody, and or who knows, maybe it even gets to the family. Maybe it's they can take this data based on everything that's going on right now, especially with AI, but the way that they're mining data, they're putting it together, they're processing the data, the big data. It used to be big data. Now, what's after big data? because it's taken to the umpth degree.
Super
And
big
then,
data.
well, 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 let me ask you a question. What about all the effects of big balls and Doge? The amount of information that supposedly they got their hands on. Now, just imagine these two entities coming together.
We don't even know what the fallout from that is going to look like. We
But
have
it,
no
it kind of
idea.
gets you thinking about where we're kind of going, with all this information. But the one thing none of these agencies factor in, all cash. What happens if you're actually doing deals in cash?
Well, then
How do
you're
they
going to
track
be then you're going to be put under the magnifying glass, especially if you're in Miami-Dade County or Manhattan. What weren't
you?
those the two big regions after the recession that they were really scrupulous? I'm using the wrong word, but they were scrutinizing. Scrutinizing is the
Yes,
word. They were
it was. It
scrutinizing
was.
all cash purchases only in those two zones, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was 2016. I was writing an account for the Miami Herald at the time. 2016. They make the announcement. Two places in the entire United States, Manhattan as well as Miami-Dade County. If anything was purchased over $1 million, basically the closing agent had to figure out who the end user was. It's kind of like what was going on with the corporations. Remember the LLCs and stuff? They wanted to know who the
Sure.
ultimate beneficiary of it was. I don't think that's ever gone forward. I don't think people have still yet been able or are
No, I mean
required
if
to do
somebody
that.
has a BVI, it's a BVI.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But that's how it came about. Is back in 16. That was coming out of the Great Recession, and then the next run up. Because again, listen, if you want to launder cash, one of the ways that they used to do it, reportedly, is
Allegedly,
pre-construction.
supposedly.
Well,
Be more
yeah,
vague.
supposedly was pre-construction condos. Why? Because you have a purpose to deposit money. If it's a 50% deposit, you're coming up with 10% at first. Then you come up with another 10% when the contract goes hard. Then you got another 10% when they break ground. You got another 10% when they hit a certain floor, and then a final 10% when ultimately they hit your floor. And you got 50% in over the course of years. And if condos are trading and asking $6,000 a foot or so, you can see it's a very effective way to be able to move cash in. And when somebody asks you why you're doing it, hey, dude, I'm buying a pre-construction condo. Now, I'm not going to say the two are tied together, but you can see how that went out. When I was a banking reporter over at the Miami Daily Business Review, one of the hustles that I ran into with some of these criminal court cases were the factoring, much like Scott Rothstein did,
I remember
if
factoring,
you
sure.
remember that, up in Fort Lauderdale.
Tell
Basically, if
everybody what
anybody's
factoring is.
yeah, so if you don't know what factoring is, basically you've been awarded an amount of money. Let's say you won the lotto, and you can either take all the cash today, and or you can take it over the course of 20 years. And over the course of 20 years, they're going to pay you a bigger portion because you're waiting, and the dollar today is worth more than the dollar tomorrow. So if you take it over 20 years, that's effectively factoring. So what this Ponzi scheme was running out of Fort Lauderdale did is this attorney claimed that he had all these people who had personal injuries. They got big settlements, and it was going to be paid out over the course of the year. So this attorney
An
went and
annuity.
pimped it out. Yep, pimped it out and was able to bring in all this money based on everybody saying, okay, for the next 20 years, almost like a municipal bond or anything, you were going to be getting these payments. But lo and behold, when the market went sideways, the guy jumped on a plane, flew over to Morocco because there was no extradition, and was trying to skirt it out. But then suddenly he got enlightened and decided to come back to Miami or Fort Lauderdale. And when he came back to Fort Lauderdale, he said he was going to face the music. Well, he ended up meeting up with some of the guys who he was running it with, and he was wearing a wire, and now he is in witness protection for probably the last 15 years or so. So,
No
so
kidding.
yeah, so there's typically ways they do that. Another one, because I wrote about money laundering, another way they would do it is they take out an insurance policy. And then if you canceled the insurance policy, they'd give you back like 80% of the money you spent. But that 80% effectively was the VIG, the clean to cash. So there's all these little hustles. But one of the popular ways to do it more recent times was ultimately pre-construction condo towers. And how do I say that? Well, there were cases in which people were moving money on behalf of the Venezuelan oil company, PDVSA, where they were buying condos in Sunny Isles Beach. I don't want to say the developers, because the developers, according to press reports, actually worked with the feds in order to track these people down. But some of these rules that went into place is effectively trying to crack down on the widespread money laundering we have down here in South Florida. And this goes back to Billy Corbin and Alfred Spellman's documentary called Cocaine Cowboys. And in that Cocaine Cowboy documentary, there's a part, I think it's the coroner, who says, you're looking at the corner because there were so many people dying with the shootouts and stuff like that, Dayland Mall, stuff like that. That basically talking about how the skyline of Miami was basically built with drug money. So, but we're kind of going in a different direction. But what I
And
am
that was
telling
the
you,
80s.
that was the 80s. That was the 80s. But that's kind of the history.
We've built a
So we're
lot of
going.
buildings since then, though.
Yeah. Of course, we're going in a different direction. But what I would tell you is cash. How are they going to track cash? And who knows? Maybe some people return to cash. It's
Well,
it's a hell of a lot more difficult.
some people return to cash. If you look, if today, I don't have the numbers pulled up right now, but a very large double-digit percent of pre-construction condos are still bought today in cash. I mean, I think Miami-Dade County is at 43% across the county, across all transactions, which is pretty high. I think we're only second. I think Fort Lauderdale is up there in the 40s as well. I think we're only second to Manhattan, whatever county that is. What is that? Suffolk County? Nassau County? No, Nassau County is Long Island. Suffolk County
Yep.
is Manhattan. So I think we're only second to Suffolk County in the country. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. And then that's across the county. But if you really hone in and get granular on pre-construction condominiums, significantly higher.
Yeah.
And if it's international, if it's international pre-construction, it's probably in the 70s or 80s.
It's true. Now, some
Because a
people
lot
might
of
say,
these guys don't have FICO scores. How are you going? You can't get financing. You don't have a credit card. You
Exactly.
don't have an American credit card.
And one of the techniques some of them use is they close in cash and then they turn around and they take a loan against it. So they're trying to get in the game, and once they're in the game, then they can parlay that and leverage it into actually getting the loan. So yeah, I think you hit on a great point there. But the scoring system, it's always good when you have competition. So I would be a buy on
As am I.
another entity being added with the concern that this might be an inside job. And like I don't use Zelle. When somebody says Zelle me something, I don't even know how the hell to use it. I use Venmo or whatever. So maybe this becomes popular, maybe it doesn't. But the key is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are going to start accepting it. And if you look at the press report or in the story, they say it's going to be weeks, not months. So this could very quickly emerge as an option.
No,
but again,
I think
it's all
a
about
good thing.
tracking you.
Right. I mean, we got to move on, but I just wanted to point out, and it's a quick Google search away, guys, if you want more information about it. But one of the big selling points of this Vantage score is that it takes things like rental payment history. So if you're a home buyer, a prospective home buyer, you got to live somewhere, so you're probably a renter. And I think it is only fair to look at your, as apart from your car loan and your credit card payment history, look at your rental history. Hey, have I been renting for 8 years and I always paid on time? I think that should factor into the score. And that's something that FICO wasn't doing, as far as I understand. Anyway.
But I know we're past, but let me just throw this out because I think it's really important. I went to Hong Kong. When you go to Hong Kong, you have to download an app. Hong Kong controlled by mainland China. You have to download an app. In order to do anything, you have to do it off this app, whether it's the metro, the subway or anything else.
The social score, you're talking about the social score, right?
Exactly. So if for some reason, like during the pandemic, what came out is that people, when they got tested, it was incorporated in there. And therefore, if you tried to go somewhere and use this app to do anything, they were able to stop you because you were playing off of one app. And Elon Musk's great ultimate idea of X is to kind of roll everything up into one place. And now with all the information that was collected through Doge and stuff like that, I'm not saying Elon Musk, but we're moving to the point where everything would be one app. And if you got Social Security or anything like that, it could all come through one central place. But then it raises the question, do you need banking if it can all be run through a Federal Reserve app, if you will? So, but that's another conversation.
Can't count on these guys to build a goddamn thing. NAR and the government shutdown. How can they build one app if there's no government to build it, Peter? and NAR, I quickly typed it out as National Association of Realtors. For those of you who don't know, National Association of Realtors, I think, is the #1 lobbying firm in the country in terms of dollars donated and membership. Just here in Dade County, we have, I think, 60,000 realtors. I mean, and we are the largest piece of that National Association of Realtor pie, but big number. And we wanted to pull it into this conversation because, well, the government shutdown affects everybody in different ways. Some people can't get into national parks. Some people might have longer lines at the airport. But in terms of real estate, especially down here, there's a whole list of things that are affected. But the one that seems most relevant to our industry and our market here locally in Miami is the National Flood Insurance Program. So,
Yes.
National Flood Insurance Program. So, it's going to lapse, right? And that will block new and renewing flood insurance policies, which is a big deal because here in Florida, we have Citizens, and Citizens is our insurer of last resort. If you're not familiar with the Florida insurance market, just an 85,000 foot view, it is FUC-Cade. Private insurers have largely pulled out. And so the state created something called Citizens Insurance. So if you cannot get insured by a private insurance, the state will step in and give you insurance. Peter, isn't that like a socialist program or something? Whoa, I can't say that. I can't say that. I can't say that. But if you're a homeowner and you have to have Citizens, and this is new in the last couple of years, doesn't matter if you're at sea level or 25 feet above sea level, you have to have flood insurance. There's no exclusions. And part of that is to refill the coffers of Citizens. So, okay, you're going to have to carry $500 or $600 a year flood insurance policy, even if you're not going to flood, but you live 25 feet above sea level. And I think that's sort of some Jack Welch GE financial engineering on the CFO side of the state of Florida, which, okay, fine. But with so many people on Citizens, being insured by Citizens, if there's a closing today or yesterday that needs a new flood insurance policy, will your lender still allow you to close? If I had to close today and Citizens is my insurer, do I close? Or I have to go to the private market, and everybody, from what I just told you, the private market insurers, it's not $500 or $600 a year. It could be thousands of dollars a year. It could be 300, 400, 500% more expensive than the National Flood Insurance Program. So you want to close? You want to blow up the deal? What are you going to do? And so that's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. I go back to Hurricane Wilma. I'm dating myself here. 20 years ago, Hurricane
What
Wilma
is
comes
that,
rolling in.
05?
Yeah, like '05. So Hurricane Wilma's coming in 20 years ago. It was in like October, and right as she's approaching, she's coming from the Gulf. What do we call it? What's our policy? We're going with Gulf of
The
Mexico.
Gulf. We're just saying the
Okay.
Gulf.
So we're gonna go with the Gulf. So Wilma's come rolling in from the Gulf, and as she got within these boxes, and they go ahead and they take a look at the longitude and latitude and all this type of stuff, and in order to get insurance, there can't be a storm within this certain like range of boxes based on longitude and latitude. Well, because of storm's trajectory, basically a lot of deals got put on hold. This is what they call an act of God. A lot of times in your contract, and I'm not an attorney, check with your attorney. A lot of times, though, in your contract, it'll say an act of God. This is something that nobody can anticipate. You can't handle it. There's nothing. You're not at fault. Nobody's at fault. It's one of these few exceptions. So the insurance, because it wasn't available, what happened is the market stalled. Nothing closed. Storm hit, and remember, it came from up from Naples or Cape Florida, or all the way up through the Miami area and Broward. And then what happened after that? They couldn't revive the marketplace, is what I would argue. So the market stalled. It was a cooling off period. You were sort of taking it easy, and you couldn't get the insurance. You couldn't get anything, and the market stalled. And some of the buyers said, you know what? Maybe this isn't such a good idea. Let's sit back. So
Time kills
this
deals.
time kills deals. That's why you have the urgency. You walk in, you go to walk out while you're negotiating to buy anything, whether it's a car or anything else. They're going to put the pressure on because they know if you're there, you're probably going to get wrapped up into it. But if you got an overnight to think about it, you may or may not do the deal. So, this may, in a way, effectively, it could help the real estate market, but it could also provide an exit for maybe some people who want to get out of the market and they want to sit on the sidelines. So this is the risk we run. People want to do a deal. You got to take their money when they're doing a deal. And if you give them time to think about it, chances are they're going to reconsider it,
Well,
or they're going
because
to get
it's a lot
out
of
of the deal.
money. It's a
It's
lot of
a hell of
money.
a lot of
You
money.
got the
And
median home price in Miami-Dade County, $640,000, and a lot of the submarkets that Peter and I work at, you're not finding anything for what, less than $8-9 million, 800, 900,000 to a million, not $8-9 million. But hey, there are submarkets that are $8-9 million markets.
so,
Totally.
it's a
And
very,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
no. You go ahead.
It's a very complex ecosystem. In order to pull a deal together. Think about like making a watch, a Rolex. I don't know anything about Rolexes. I have one, but I don't wear it. Whatever. But the thing about it is, it's so intricate, and you throw one little thing off, it could basically the whole thing goes sideways. Or maybe you're writing code for a computer, or maybe you're trying to put together a spreadsheet. And if you're off by one thing, it could disrupt the whole thing. And now, lo and behold, you get frustrated. You put it aside. You go somewhere else. You do something else. And that's really sort of the issue we're up against. We don't have a lot of deals flowing. We got growing supply, at least on the condo side. We got growing supply. We don't have as much. The velocity of deals is not good right now. In fact, we have an index and we track it. It's getting worse. We're supposed to be an interest rate cut, and then lo and behold, the market was going to come back. Well, 2 weeks into it, we're not seeing it thus far. We're seeing it actually deteriorate. So any additional obstacle or barrier you put in the way of a potential deal, it's probably not going to be a good thing at this moment in time.
So, okay, so we're talking about the government shutdown, NAR, National Flood Insurance Program.
EB5.
So EB5 was
impacted.
EB5 is another one. Well, the EB5 program, and for those of you who don't know, EB5 program, as opposed to Trump's Golden Visa program, which I don't even know if they've executed, but the EB5 program is very real. What is the EB5 program? It's an investment for green card program. So you can invest in certain markets, in rural markets, I think $800,000. In a market like Miami, it's $1,050,000. And what that does is that gets you and your immediate family under the age of 21, I believe, a fast track to get a green card. And you get your money back over a 6-year period for a paltry interest rate, because the point isn't for you to make any money on it, it's for you to get a green card. So if you have the cash, it's a good option. Now, that program is funded through September 30th of 2027. However, the applications have to run through the State Department. State Department is shuttered. So, and a lot of these paperwork, these applications run on very, very, very strict deadlines. Like, hey, you don't get this paperwork in by X date, got to start all over, or whatever. And that's really disruptive, especially when you look at what the purpose of this visa program is for. It's for investment in American stuff. So this is anything. And by the way, part of the program is you got to invest the money. If the money has to create 10 jobs. And so what's an industry that creates 10 jobs? Construction and development. So a lot of condominium projects, hotel projects, restaurants do this. Just for a specific example, I'm pretty sure several of the Mr. 01 pizza restaurants have been EB5 visas or EB5 visa investment vehicles. They do this. I think there's, off the top of my head, there's Domus Brickell, I think is an EB5 project. The River Landing one, next to River Landing, I think it's called 11 River, and near the UM Health District, they have an EB5 visa program, and Visions Brickell. So those are 3 projects that if you have the cash, you can do it. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to buy a unit in the building, but I'm sure the developer will give you a discount.
Well, these EB5 programs, I just wonder, typically the EB5 program, the reason you're doing it is you do want to get fast track for that green card. You want to be able to live in the United States and work legally. The issue is you're already dealing with the immigration strategy. So if you're peddling product to EB5 end users, and you're dealing with the immigration and the vibe that's getting thrown out by the current administration, and then you throw in the fact that you actually do make the investment, but the paperwork process is going to be elongated. At what point do you sort of say, okay, let me just sort of sit on the sidelines, let me look somewhere else?
I don't know. I mean, when you say fast track, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an immigration attorney. I've never done one of these EB5 visas. I don't know how long it takes. Does it take a year? Does it take 18 months? Does it take 2 years? Certainly, by calling it a fast track, it's faster than the normal way. It's a shortcut. Otherwise, they would just call it the way.
Walking rather than crawling. No, I get it.
Right. So NAR and the government shutdown, well, I'm going to sell on it. The government needs to reopen. We can't, I think the National Flood Insurance Program being lapsing is very bad for business here. I haven't heard of any closings being stalled, but the government's only been shut down for 2 days. I'm sure news of some closings being stalled will come out, or some buyers being pretty peed off that they had to turn to private markets, or that they got cold feet and they just bailed.
And just to remind the audience, I don't know what their understanding level is, but if when you take out a mortgage, the bank is going to require you to get insurance. The insurance covers their money, not your money. And if you, for some reason, do not have the insurance, the bank is empowered most times. I'm not an attorney. Check with your attorney. Check with your banker. Bank's empowered to go ahead and buy it on their own. They'll go and buy it to make sure that they are covered their side. So just imagine what kind of deals the bank is getting and not getting. And I don't know if the bank can actually sell insurance or if they have any kind of internal relationship. Like a lot of brokerages will have the brokerage side, they got the title side, they got all this type of stuff, so they can kind of wet their beak throughout the entire process. So something to keep in mind. So if you have a mortgage, you're ready in your place, and lo and behold, your flood insurance is expiring. There is a possibility that the bank could go and buy it on behalf of you, give
Yeah,
you
but
the
the
bill.
bank doesn't want this on their books.
No, of course not. But I'm saying, but they want to protect their asset, and they're required to do it, especially if they're holding it, if they're holding that asset. Now, I don't know what Fannie Mae does. I am assuming Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, if the loan has been sold, and if the bank isn't managing it.
I,
So
I looked into it. I don't think that they send the money unless they have that insurance contingency filled. Like, they need a
interesting.
policy.
Yeah.
So
It's
you
more
can't
confusion.
close.
And again, we don't have the sales pace. We got growing supply. Again, I'm speaking only of condos. I don't look at single family. So we have another obstacle. This is another obstacle. It's about obstacles. And at what point do you get frustrated and you say, you know what? I'm going back home. I don't want to deal with this. And that's the issue we kind of run as we approach our winter buying season, which begins in November. And that's typically the very busy time when stuff starts to ramp up. We got all the events. The weather is great. I like to say a carnival-like atmosphere. Everybody descends upon this area. Well, I don't know if they're going to come from Latin America this year, but that's sort of a different story. But everybody comes here, and that's when you start searching and doing things. If we get off to a slow start in November, for whatever reason, maybe it's government shutdown, maybe it's whatever, that's not going to bode very well for those people who are going to be closing in May, June, July, April, May, June, July. So typically, Daniel, what would you say? 6 months it takes to find a place? 4 months, 5 months for
As a
finding
buyer,
it, go under contract, close it? What is it? Probably a 6 month process.
4 to 6.
Okay, so let's call it 4. So if you get out of the shoot late, say you're going to start in January, we don't know what the staggered effects are going to be. We don't know what they remember. So as this stuff is building up, once the employees come back, then they got to get back to it. They got to catch up. It's like when you take a holiday, you go on vacation, you come back. It's not like you got less work. It's just like, oh my God, I got so much more to do. So that's just how the whole process gets slowed down. So think of it that way. Think in quarters and quarters and quarters. And I'm not talking about the little silver things people use. I'm talking about the the 90
Little
day
silver
period
things that nobody uses. That's what you mean.
that nobody uses. Although I still have a bunch. I got a whole jar of them.
Feeding the meter, feeding the payphone.
I don't know what I'm going to do with them, to be honest. And now they charge you. If you want to convert them into money, they charge you. It's
You
like,
take it
dude,
to the Coinstar and they'll give you
yeah,
yeah, they factor it. There you go. There, you're working factoring into it.
it's like a
Buy, sell,
10%
hold
zig.
on the NAR government shutdown. I'm selling it. We need
Sell,
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 sell.
sell. It didn't sell? It was given away. Given away, Peter. Miami-Dade College. Well, not the whole college, but Miami-Dade College gave away 2.6-ish acres of land right across the street from Biscayne Bay, next to the Freedom Tower, next to the Waldorf Astoria site. It's going to be very nice, very big. They just started on a new cube, I saw, to the Trump administration for the presidential library. Now, it's not final because Trump, ultimately has to say, yes, I want to put my library here. Will he want to put his library there? I mean, it's got to be the most banging presidential library piece of real estate in the history of presidential library. It ain't in Little Rock. I mean, quite nice. Now, Miami Herald story came out, and they said that the the lot is worth at least $67 million. Now, this is what we do, folks, and so we know much better. And I know the Herald is kind of stepping on eggshells there, and they're just going off of what the property appraiser says. But that piece of land is worth loads more than $67 million. Peter, you spoke to a publication the other day. You told me what numbers were you guys throwing around?
368 million.
368 million. So $300 million more than the $67 million put out by the property appraiser. So just
Yeah, that's if
incrementally
you
more.
allocate land cost 10%. If you make it 20%, north of 700 million.
So
And but everybody out there is going to say, listen, what the hell is Peter talking about? Some
Peter
of
doesn't
you
know.
I know think I'm a pessimist, but let me just tell you, let me give you some insight. Now, what I say to that is there's a guy called David Martin. David Martin's got a company called Terra. Terra builds a lot of stuff. Terra was going to try to build on the Miami Herald site, which is just up the street. I don't know, 8 blocks up the street or so. He had under contract 1.2 billion. Does not even have zoning similar for this particular one, which by the way is 1,000 units per acre. What'd you say, 2.6 acres
2.6 acres.
times 1,000 units per acre, and no parking requirement. Parking sucks out cash. You don't have parking, it bolsters your profitability. So no, this is a project that based on our ballparking it's about 5.3 billion with a B sell up.
Wow. What's the sellout of the Waldorf Astoria, Peter?
Oh, that one I don't know. It's simply because I don't know what the units are. But what I can tell you though is the average ask today for a condo in and around there. This is resale. Think used car versus new car is 1.7 a door, 1.7 million a door. Typically, you
1.7 a
put
door,
between
and what are we talking? Is that like, do you call that the World Center Zone, or is that
yeah,
downtown?
yeah, we'd be looking at the MacArthur Causeway, General Douglas MacArthur
So
Causeway
you're
south
talking
of the
like the
Miami River.
Marquee, 900, 1000,
A-
10
Aston
Museum.
Martin, Aston
Oh,
Martin. We're in
Aston
the
Martin's
blue.
included in it. That just that. If what if you exclude Aston Martin? Is it like 2.5 million?
Yeah, well, it could actually be, yeah, exactly, exactly. So 1.7 a door is the average ask right now. Now, typically, like when I've done valuations for condo developers, they want to put up stuff, they want to know what to price it out at. It's typically 20 to 30% more. You need to get somebody to pay a premium on the fact it's new, just like a new car. Some people will go higher than that,
Yeah,
but let's
nobody
just say,
wants to take a dump in a toilet that somebody else took a crap in.
yeah, exactly.
Would you pay
So
another
let's say,
30% on that? Yeah, maybe.
so let's blend it at 25%. 25% premium new construction, average is 1.7 a door. You run some quick math, you need to get $2.1 million a door, or you should be able to get $2.1 million a door. You multiply that by 2,500 units, and that's where you come up with 5.25 billion with a B. You give them 30% profit margin, real conservative. That's what you're putting in your pocket. So if we just do some rough math, it's going to come out, let's see, 5250, 123 times 30% profit margin, but 1.6 billion with a B. So how do I come up with my number? My number is based on land cost. Land cost is typically 10% of development cost. If you really want to pay a premium, maybe it's oceanfront or something like that, you might pay 20% to get into the dirt. So
Is that
my
20%
numbers,
number really realistic with the interest cost
you,
today, with the carry cost today?
I don't know if it would be today, but if you look at certain sites, one of the ones that comes to mind back in the day, I'm going off memory here. Remember the Oceana Bell Harbor
Sure.
projects like that? Yeah, which are very unique. If you look at their land costs and the amount of money they pay for the dirt, like if David Martin would have closed on the
So
Miami
so
Herald
wait, wait,
site,
wait. Let's do the same math on the David Martin. When you're talking about David Martin, what about the
yep.
two? Was it $220 million on Key Biscayne for the new site on Key Biscayne? So
Oh, it escapes me. My
it
mind's
was it was
integrated on,
two
but
hundred something million dollars. So based on your math, his sellout is at least $2 billion.
correct. Yeah, so you would take that amount, that'd represent 10% of the overall development cost. And then you simply go on and then you put a 30% profit margin. Depending on where you are in the cycle, you make between 30 and 50%. You have cost overruns, you have other issues, you start to get squeezed. Now, this is gross. It's not a net, and there'll be other things, but that's how they make up it with junk fees. 2% developer fee, this, that, But back of the napkin type of way to look at it. So, but here's the interesting part. So, I told you 5.25 billion. You got 1.6 in profitability. The remainder is construction, and then the question is, well, who would actually construct it? Well, you know what? The president's son-in-law, he's building stuff right up the street, 15 blocks north. He's building rental towers.
Hey,
So he's got a track record now. So I always say you do three towers, lo and behold, you got street cred, you got the ability to sort of do it. So these are sort of some of the concepts. But wait, there's more. if you are the city, you are the county, you are the school board, you're taxing people annually, property tax, 5.25 billion or 5.3 billion, let's call it, times 2%. Each of these entities put back their,
That's evaporating now.
oh, so it's not going to be taxable.
Well, it's I
No,
mean,
no, no,
wait.
no, 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 no,
Is
no, no. Okay.
is it tax free? Is a presidential library tax free?
I'm sure there's some structure, but I'm just saying generally speaking. So at 5.25 billion a sellout for that site, you would generate about $35 million per entity. But here's where I'm going with this. When you think of this library, this is what I want you to think about. I want you to think about the way they build condos in Miami. First 8 floors is a pedestal. Front of the pedestal, you're going to put retail, you're going to put office, you're going to put townhouse, studios, whatever. You're going to wrap it all around. You got parking in the middle.
You're literally
Eighth
describing
floor,
Marina Blue.
yeah. Well, no, well, but any building, they're all pretty much done the
Right,
same, whether
right,
it's
right, right.
900 Biscayne or anything. So then on top, even Icon Brickell, for the most part, is kind of like that pool deck and stuff. It's all kind of the same. So here's what you do. So if you don't have parking, what the hell are you gonna do with all that space? That's where you put the library. You put the library on the ground floor, and then you have a series of towers above where you carve out your 2,500 units, which, oh, by the way, is what Genting wanted to do on their site, which would have gone from Biscayne Bay all the way west to Biscayne Boulevard. And
Right.
they would have had a casino in there, they would have had a mall in there, they had all this stuff, and then a series of towers up and above. I don't see
3
any
towers,
reason
right?
why. Yeah, I think it was 5.
It was 5.
It was at least 4. It was 4 or 5, something like that. But again, they don't have the zoning. What's interesting is the line for the zoning. It cuts off immediately north of the what used to be a block, which has been bisected by the Freedom Tower. So if you look at the Freedom Tower, there's a site immediately north of it,
I'm going to pull it up for the game.
and that site is where it ends for this hyper serious, ultimate, massive zoning of 1,000 units per acre. And why is it 1,000 units per acre? Because you got this high concentration, and you got access to public transportation like the Metro Mover and Metro Rail to some degree. Yep, there you go.
So I'm just waiting, and we're gonna talk about this in the next topic. But we're looking at this overview. You can see this, right, Peter?
Yeah, I get it.
We're looking at this bird's eye view of downtown here, and what's directly east here is Bayside, which I'm just waiting for it to happen, man. I don't know what the lease terms are with the county or with the city, but this is so prime. And it's so, I don't want to say dumpy, but I don't have a better word for it. Dumpy.
Underutilized.
Let's call it under, well, no. Well, if this is underutilized, then what's the Marine Stadium? Decrepit?
Pretty much.
I mean, at least there's commerce running out of this marina. There's a ton of commerce running out of this marina. There's
Yeah,
boats, there's fishing charters,
yeah.
there's a kiosk where you can buy iPhone cases and Victoria's Secret and no. There's institutional money here, but I mean, this could be in the Mall of the Americas. It could be in Dadeland. What? This is prime waterfront real estate here in Miami. When did Bayside open, Peter? Late 70s,
I think it was
80s?
yeah, it was the 80s. I want to say like 87. Don't hold me to it. It was definitely 80s. It was during cocaine cowboy era.
And then what was, educate our viewers, what was at the Kaseya Center before they built that? Was that just a parking
Oh,
lot?
yeah, I want to say that was part of what they called Bicentennial Park. Bicentennial Park. Okay, so you got a great aerial. So I want everybody to picture. So you'll see a round white circle. That's called the Kaseya Center. It used to be called the AAA, the American Airlines Arena. It's also where Sam Bankman-Fried. Yeah, you can still see the plane there. But
FTX.
yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried. He had naming rights from his FTX, but now he's in federal prison for all kinds of issues related to his crypto scam that he was running. Discrepancies. So what had happened is, as we look at this map where the arena is, just go to the immediate left. You're going to see an ornamental building. Looks like something out of Spain. That's called the Freedom Tower. It's originally the Miami News. It's about 100 years old or so. It's celebrating. Now behind that, effectively, is where you had Camille's house. So Camille's house and any of the place or one of the like high concentrations of the homeless people, they all used to be in and around there. So around dinner time and or when you had to check into the accommodations, this is where you would go. Now, all of Biscayne Boulevard was 1- and 2-story buildings. There was actually I think it was a Howard Johnson or a Holiday Inn where the
A
marquee is right
Hojo's.
there. A Hojo, yeah, and you probably still remember all this. So this was one of the areas where it was so sketchy that people would have their air conditioning compressors up on their roof, and then what they would do is they would have to put bars around it so nobody got up on the roof, ripped it off, and then took it in and sold it for scrap metal. So that's
Jesus.
the kind of area it was. Yeah, it was, and there was a Greyhound bus station
And
where the
now you got
1,000
it. Now you have an average ask of 1.7 million dollars in this very area.
1.7. Yeah, the MacArthur, you can see it nicely. You see 95, and then just down will be the
So
river.
right here,
Yeah,
folks,
just down
all
to
the
the
way
south.
down, and then
Yep,
this is
yep,
the
yep.
Aston Martin. Oh, the Aston Martin. They got to update this. Come on, Google. Aston Martin delivered like a year ago more.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I just so this is the site, folks. Right here,
yeah,
this
yeah,
parking lot, 2.6
yeah,
acres. The Waldorf Astoria is going up right here. This is what the
yep,
Waldorf Astoria is going to look like.
yep,
Um,
yep,
well, that's a shitty picture. Waldorf Astoria. That's what it's going to
yep.
look like. There we go.
There you go.
Um, so it's going to go up right here.
Yep.
How tall is the Waldorf Astoria? It's 100 floors? 102 floors?
Somewhere right in there, but keep in mind they like to play games with number of floors.
Yeah. We don't have 13. We skip it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly,
very
exactly.
tall.
Very tall. But if you go back, if I don't know if you go back to that map real quick, just to
Of
kind of
course.
give the audience some perspective. So if you go, so what I want you to focus on is where the parking lot is. Just behind that, you're going to have Miami-Dade College. You have a parking garage. Now you're going to see a little yellow and white building right there. Stop. Go to the left a little bit. See the little yellow? Yep, right there.
This
So
year.
that's actually senior housing, and there's been stories written. It's right there on the college campus. It's separate, but there's been stories written about how the landlord's not taking care of it, and therefore they might actually have to tear it down. Might be set for demolition.
Oh,
Might be one of these. Imagine that piece of dirt right there that the landlord is not taking care of,
but
and
is
people might
is
have to
that
move out. These seniors.
so wait, who owns that? Is private?
Uh, I don't want to speak to it because I don't know off the top of my head, but basically
Oh,
it
come
hasn't
on,
been
Peter. We
taken
can look
care of.
this up. We got technology.
Yeah, yeah. There's been stories about it, and the people living there is like, dude, they're trying to run us out of town. They don't want to do anything. They want the building
No,
condemned.
it's a Miami-Dade Housing Agency. It's public.
Miami-Dade Housing Authority. Okay, so there you go. So just to keep in mind what's kind of in play, but what's important to remember is this site for the Trump Library. This was supposed to be part of the expansion of Miami-Dade College. Now remember what Miami-Dade College is. Remember what Freedom Tower is. Freedom Tower, historically, symbolically, is a place where people were fleeing. It's primarily from Cuba, in and around the Fidel Castro era. They came in. This is where they were processed, and then I'd say a block down or two is Miami-Dade College. Miami-Dade College role, it's two-year college, which used to be called community college. Its role was to help educate and help people to A, learn the language, B, learn a skill, and C, maybe reposition themselves. Let's say something like
Right, but
AI comes
it was
around,
it
and
was a community college up until what, a decade ago.
yeah, exactly. But its purpose is basically to offer education in a way to try to help people pull themselves up. We always hear about you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, that's what the college is for. And this dirt was assembled apparently from stories I read by Dr. Eduardo
Padron.
Padron. Yeah. So it was part of the expansion of what was to happen. So, it's one thing if you're going to go ahead and build a Trump library there, and I'm assuming he would do it on the ground floor and you have condos above it. It's another thing if you're actually stunting the growth of people who potentially could tap into it. Now, some of you might say, yeah, but who the hell is going to go into downtown Miami to take these classes? Well, it's also a place where you can catch the Metro Rail. Metro Rail goes from north to south. Metro Rail is all around. So also too, you got the Tri-Rail coming in, which is public. Well, for the time being, unless they get more funding going forward, a year or two, it's going to be gone too. But this is what's the vision. So if you thought about it very simplistically, if you came in from a different place, you're trying to learn the language, you're trying to get set up, you're trying to strive for the American dream, you'd get processed over at the Freedom Tower because that was the immigration, and then you could potentially you or your kids could be educated at Miami-Dade College, and then you could prosper and you could bolster this overall community and create such a dynamic place. And the
So you don't
land that
remain in Alice.
yeah. So exactly. And what was it again? It was
Asset
uh,
limited income no. Asset
constrained.
limited income constrained employed.
employee. Yeah. So this was part of the community who, remember when you had the Mario boat lift and stuff, you had all these people coming to town, you had all this stuff going on, and you kind of had to make heads and tails out of it all and put it all together. So this was part of their growth. And okay, so fine. If you're going to say, well, the college is never going to grow into it, what about the cash? What if I'm right? What if it's $368 million for the land cost based
It's
on
a
having condos
lot
on
of
there?
money that they could do. They could just sell it to PMG.
But from everything I've read, they're not getting anything.
No, they're not getting a damn thing. It's a gift.
This this is like this, this, what do they call it? Generational wealth that they're just giving away. This could have been something for Miami-Dade College. Now, no, I don't know anything about the college. I might have taken a class or two there. No, I think it was Coral Gables High School. I was studying Spanish when I first got here. But the point is, there were people with vision who went ahead. They took down this dirt, and to not get anything in return. Maybe there's some other part of the deal where they're gonna,
Well,
the
no,
state's gonna give them money in the budget, or
the talking heads are saying, well, the Clinton Library in Little Rock, which is the highest grossing library, did something like $3 billion in the last decade in terms of
yeah,
visits and economic contributions.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they
yeah,
argue that because Trump is so wildly popular, that this would actually trump that pun by leaps and bounds. And so this would create so much money for the community. Peter, it's basic trickle down economics.
yeah.
Duh.
Yeah. But does Donald Trump have a presence here? He's got his Doral
Palm
Country
Beach.
Club. Yeah, but there's plenty of dirt in Palm Beach. Vanderbilt's coming there to build a university, and now Service Now, I heard it just signed a big deal to go into West Palm Beach. There's plenty of dirt in Palm Beach. Why would you set up shop in Miami-Dade County? That's the part that doesn't make sense to me.
Wait, do you
Um,
really want me to answer that, or are
please.
we still recording?
Yes.
Ah, gosh, Peter. Well, I don't know. It's a municipal election year, so
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
Marco went a long way with Trump. He rode those bridges all the way up to Washington D.C. and
Yeah.
Marco's been treated very well. I don't want to get him political over here, but
No.
but
You don't have to. I'm wondering about
but
the logic.
it's illogical. It's illogical. Why are you going to give away a $380 million property? Heck, put it in Doral.
Or why not lease it? Why not, like the city of North Miami?
A
They had that.
99-year ground lease. Well, no, because you can't eventually knock down a presidential library. That defeats the whole purpose. It's supposed to like perpetuate through time. Um, like
But
our
but but
next topic, we got to buy, sell, hold this. We
but
got to move on.
let me give you one last point. Sorry, one last point. It's a critical. In 2016, an art collector called Gary Nader wanted to build Latin American art museum on this site, put his boteros, and use the money from selling condos based on this concept to build up this massive museum for the city of Miami. Just to give you an idea. So this idea about a library in the bottom and towers at the top, this is not new. This is something that was first envisioned back in 2016. Deal went sideways when George Perez, the related group, tried to bid on the site. They tabled it. So just I thought that context was necessary.
They should have just let George buy it, and we wouldn't be in the situation. Although they wouldn't have gotten $360 million plus for it. They probably would have gotten, I don't know, half that. Different times, different times. Listen, I'm a sell on it. You said it yourself. It's illogical to give this away.
So
Um, what gives? I don't get it. I think somebody's sucking up. And by the way, need to reiterate, it might be an empty gesture, not an empty gesture, but he might not want to put it there. I don't know why he wouldn't want to, because if you could build condos up there, what did you say, $5 billion sellout? Not too.
5.25 billion.
All right, say it's half of that. Say it's a fifth of that. Not too bad. I'm selling it. Talking a lot about David Martin today. Miami Seaquarium 2.0. If you're not from Miami and you don't know what the Miami Seaquarium is, let me show you. Miami Seaquarium, which is a pun on aquarium, because we're by the sea, so it's a seaquarium. It's kind of like this very sad and aged amphitheater on the bay here. We talked about it a few weeks ago on Buy, Sell, Hold Miami because we were talking about Virginia Key, and that's where this aquarium is. This is Virginia Key, folks. I'll give you the 2D image here. So Virginia Key is a barrier island. You have Miami Beach here, you have Key Biscayne here, and then Virginia Key, and I'm going to use Peter's words because I like it. It's the rest stop on the way to Key Biscayne. But what is on Virginia Key? Well, we have the beautiful wastewater treatment plant, which if you're going to the beach anywhere near Crandon or South Beach, check the Miami water keepers because there might literally be shit in the water. That was a
Great
great place to
smelling
put it.
place.
Yeah.
Great smelling.
If you're into mountain biking, they got some little mountain biking things here. They have Virginia Key Beach, which is the historic Black Beach, and the attempted future homeless encampment site, which the Miami City Commissioners will tell you wasn't in fact the case, but just make sure you guys vote in January. You have the decrepit Marine Stadium here, and then you have this aquarium all the way over here. And this aquarium is 38 acres, and you want to talk pristine? We were just talking about the Trump Library, 2.6 acres. Nah. This is 38 acres on the bay. 38 acres is about the size of the Mercy complex, just to put it
Wow.
into perspective for you, right? So Mercy's a hospital on the bay. I wouldn't say call that underutilized. I'd call that properly utilized. It's really the only hospital in that area for Coconut Grove, which is a wealthy enclave here in Miami. And this is the Seaquarium. And this aquarium has been run by an organization called the Dolphin Company. So aptly named because they own dolphins. Seaquarium became huge in the 80s because this is where the show Flipper, was this even the 80s, 70s, 60s? How long has this thing been here?
No, I think it was the 50s or 60s.
Holy shit. So this aquarium has been here for decades. This is where Flipper was filmed. So it's kind of like, what was that? What made Malibu popular? Remember Gidget, the surfer? Gidget, the surfing show? So same sort of thing. Malibu, what nobody knew it. Okay, so 1967, they filmed Flipper here, and it turned into this water park, where they had the orca show and the dolphin shows, and that's, quite recently in the last decade, probably 20 years, 10 years, these aquariums have become terribly out of fashion because now they realize these mammals, these sea mammals are, and I don't want to make a blanket statement because I'm sure there's some conservation efforts in some of these facilities, but in a lot of these places, the animals are very poorly treated. And well, the Dolphin Company has gone bankrupt. So the lessee on this 38-acre site can no longer pay its rent. So David Martin of Terra fame, we were just talking about him because he purchased a $200+ million tract of land on Key Biscayne to redevelop and do a big condominium project. And he's also a big proponent, and we've talked about this on Buy, Sell, Hold, for the Shoreline project, which is the $500 million proposal to redo the 2.5-mile stretch here between the bottom of the big bridge, the William Powell Bridge of the Rickenbacker Causeway, all the way. Well, when I say all the way, I make it sound like it's a long stretch. It's 2.5 miles. $500 million renovation for a 2.5-mile stretch of causeway that already exists. Clearly, I'm not a fan. But this aquarium, which it's just been announced that his company will be taking over the lease. I think he's taking over the lease at a cost of 20-something million dollars. And according to the press reports, at least 50 to 60 to 70 million dollars of rehab is going to be done to this. Now, it's not zoned for condos. You can't build condos here. You can't build extra housing here. It would have to go, you'd have to change the Miami City Charter, which has been done before. It's actually been attempted to supersede the city charter to change an election year. They didn't get away with it though. So shenanigans can happen, but as of now, the plan is to have what they call Seaquarium 2.0. So there will be some sort of educational component, this and that, but it's a 38-acre site. So there's a lot that can be done here. I mean, if you turn this into a marina, there's a ton. I mean, you want to talk about needs in this county? How many boats don't have boat slips? And the boat slips that do exist, the private boat slips, and I'm talking about the ones over here in Coconut Grove. Whoop, where are we? Coconut Grove? These go for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per month. The private marinas, depending on the size of your boat, obviously, some of them have a 5+ year waiting list. So there's a tremendous need for extra marina space. So all of a sudden, this $20 million lease takeover plus, whatever the rehab seems like a pretty good business deal to me. Now, how many years does this lease have left on it, Peter? Do you see
Uh,
that?
I was just looking at the story. No, I don't see anything related to that. I will look it up, but I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but just so the audience knows, the project's actually in bankruptcy, and as a result, bankruptcy court is the only court that can basically terminate like a deal, like a lease deal or any kind of contract. So that's sort of critical. Typically, when you go to bankruptcy, you need to generate cash for creditors, and one of the things that can be sold off can be the lease. So, it appears as if, according to the story, that David Martin's moving towards that. And I love what you're saying about the boating complex. Boy, if you wanted to set up the ultimate pre-sale condo sales office, why not set up something where you get all these boaters in here who obviously have disposable income because they're burning money on cash. Remember, what's the saying, Daniel?
You
You
can't
don't want to
pour
own a boat.
gas out of a bucket faster than out of a boat, or I thought.
I was going to say you don't want to own a boat. You want to know somebody who owns a boat, but okay, what one is sort of the same. But I didn't mean to interrupt, but I
No, no,
wanted to
no, no,
point
no, no,
that
no, no.
that part out.
I was on my soapbox. I'm very passionate about this because so much of Virginia Key is city and county land. It's supposed to be for public and civic use. Right here, this actually isn't public. This big rectangle here, that's actually University of Miami. That's the
Yep,
University. That's the Rosenthal School of Marine Science. There's actually have you been to the bar in there? The wet lab.
dude. Of course, I've
The
been
wet
there for the
lab.
happy hour.
And I'm glad we've only had 6 viewers because I don't want anybody to know about the wet lab. Wet lab's that little bar right there on the bay. Great
Exactly.
place to grab a beer. It's open to
Yes.
the public. You just got to find your way through the labyrinth of the campus, but it's right there. It's great. But the rest of this is part of that seaquarium complex. I actually went to a wedding here in this little cove. Quite nice. Do you remember about 10 or 15 years ago? Shit, it might have been 10 or 20 years ago. There used to be a ferry that left from here that went to Key West.
I don't remember the ferry. Oh, that would have been great. I would have done it.
No, there
Wasn't
was
there
a
a couple?
ferry that left from this boat slip. It took 3 hours, 3, 4 hours, and it went to Key West. You could leave first thing in the morning, and the ferry came back at night. So you could spend the day in Key West. Booze on the boat, go to Key West, go to Sloppy Joe's, booze some more, get back on the boat, get a little seasick, take a nap, and then you're back in Miami. That ferry, it didn't last more than a few years, I don't think. It ran from Key Biscayne to Key West, and then they had another ferry, which was actually a better deal. It ran from Fort Myers to Key West
Mm.
because
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
straight
yeah.
shot. I mean, to drive from Fort Myers to Key West would take forever. But on
That's
that
right.
straight shot, it probably took just as long to take the ferry from Fort Myers to Key West than it took to go from Key Biscayne to Key West. Um, anyway,
I never went on that ferry, but I do take the bus, and that's what I do. I'll take the bus down to Key West for the day. I'll get there in the morning, and then I think it leaves like 8 a.m.
how
And
long
then
does that
you le-
bus take, dude?
it's probably like 2.5 hours or so.
No way.
Yeah, it's like
No
2.5, 3 hours
way.
because it leaves at there's various stops along the way, but the last stop is like they pick you up at like 8 o'clock or something. You're there by 11. They drop you off right there off of Duval Street. And then leaving the return trip to Miami typically leaves I think like 5:30. And if you were drinking all day, you pass out by the time you wake up. You're at Bayside, effectively.
Oh, you're
So
at Bayside. It drops you off at Bayside. There's
yeah,
another
you
use
could.
for
Yeah,
Bayside.
there's some stops along the way. But I want to say, going back to Virginia Key, wasn't there a place called Sundays on the Bay? I could swear that little cove area.
No,
I
no.
could swear.
Sundays is this is Sundays. Sundays is
Oh,
here.
Sunday's still there?
Well, no, no, no. It
Ah,
doesn't exist anymore. So it's
okay.
called something else now. It's called like Crandon Marina, but this was Sundays.
Okay, 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 okay. Yeah, yeah. I went once or twice, so I was confusing the two.
Well,
Interesting.
and then there was Jimbo's.
Yeah, Jimbo's. Yeah, I've been to Jimbo's.
Well, Jimbo's is no longer. Now we have Gramps, which is over here in the Rusty Pelican Marina. Gramps is great. It's run by, I want to say it's run by, and if I get your outfit's name wrong and I attribute it to somebody else, I'm sorry. But if I get it right, here's your accolade. I'm pretty sure it's run by the same guys who run Lost Boy, that bar in Flagler downtown, and the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
food is fantastic. I mean,
Huh.
it's like, and everybody's gonna appreciate me for just telling the truth. It's like a non-shitty version of Monty's.
Nice.
Like the most gorgeous. I mean, this won't do it justice, but I mean that's the view.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're looking just across the bay into the from the marina. They got conch fritters and burgers and good drinks and they got good music. Big fan of Gramps. Again, thankfully there's only 6 people watching, so it won't get too popular. Except they don't even need the celebrity boost. That place is slammed all the time.
Really, I think I went there when they first repositioned it, and I was surprised to find out that they were actually related to Gramps. Do you think that's why Gramps and Wynwood's closing? Besides like rent increasing, maybe they're saying, hey, this is much more of a cash cow because we could hit everybody going to Key Biscayne, we can hit everybody hanging out at Hobie Beach, whatever the case may be. They just
I don't
said,
know. I know the F&B restaurant guy had the proprietor of Gramps on his show recently, and it sort of seems like he saw the writing on the wall in terms of Wynwood, um, much akin to what we talk about,
yeah,
our opinion on Wynwood, and you know he just bailed. It's a different vibe now. It's not. There's no diving. Dive has nothing, no place in the vocabulary of Wynwood anymore. And
yeah,
so, what is in that vocabulary? Luxury? Nah, come on.
yeah, luxury.
Luxury? You want to live in Wynwood?
Now,
I,
you know, and it makes me think. So going back to David Martin. So I knew his old man, or I met his old man before. I was a reporter. I wrote some stories, pissed him off. And then David, he came down this after the Great Recession, so before he started building again. We went, and we had lunch over in the Grove, stuff like that. And I'm wondering why David is doing this with the Seaquarium. I think there's a certain philanthropic part to him. He's a big
if
believer in the Grove.
if that's the case, then
Yeah,
I hold them to a much higher esteem than previously. I always thought David made good product. Um,
yeah.
right? But but if that's the case with this aquarium, and there actually is a community angle here,
I mean, he's had success in this run. There's no question about the stuff he's done, stuff he's been able to accomplish. I mean, to be honest, he's everywhere. Hopefully the market keeps going for him. But I mean, obviously, probably maybe it turns into a tax write-off. Maybe there is some sort of future play. Maybe it's a great place to collect would-be condo investors. Maybe he's morphing into marine or something like that. But I kind of get the sense from a lot of stuff he says he is actually conscious and he appreciates growing up in and around here. The Grove was a big deal for him, and for him to step up and sort of do this, I get the sense he might be doing it for the right reasons. But every time I tend to think that about a developer, they end up pulling the old sucker
they
punch
end
from the
up
back.
disappointing you.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, 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 yeah. So, so
here's
I'll give him the benefit of doubt. But George Perez, we got a museum named after him. Adrian Arsh, after she sold off the bank, Total Bank, the City
we don't have
National.
our archaeology museum yet, though.
We don't have an archaeological. David, listen, if you are listening and you're going to do
No,
something
no,
with this
it
dirt,
can't be one developer. It has to be all of them together. That's the whole point. Because it's not one
but
guy finding Indian bones. Are you going to find Indian bones on on Virginia Key?
David, we would love you to earmark some space for pop-up museums, whatever the fad is at the time. Maybe we could pop up. Like right now, ice cream museum is a big deal. Then remember there was a sex museum. Maybe they could carve out some space, like a food court, if you will, of pop-up museums. We could have one for all the archaeological sites. We could have one for all the condo buildings. We can have one for, it could be a whole variety of things. David, you got too much dirt there. What are you going to do with it? If you, we would encourage, or I would encourage you to do something philanthropic. Hopefully, that's what you're doing. We need more museums. Create pop-up museum site on the property.
I'm a buy on it, and I just need to know if you're a buy on it because I got a surprise for you, Peter.
I am a buy with the understanding that he's doing it for philanthropic reasons.
You know
Yeah,
what? I
I would
believe
be a buy for that.
that. I'm a hold then. If you now that you said it, I'm a hold because I don't know. But Peter, we have 5 topics in this rundown. That's what we do. And thanks for sticking around. We talked a lot today because there was a lot of juice in our rundown. But Peter, it's October 3rd.
Oh yeah, I'm well aware of that.
It's and it wasn't in the rundown because I didn't want to get you too excited. But
Yes.
all right, take your victory lap, Peter Zalewski.
So there's a gentleman called Ken Griffin. He owns a company
Billions.
called Citadel. He moved down here. He overpaid on a bunch of dirt, including a site right off of Brickell Avenue and Biscayne Bay. Wants to build a $1 billion office tower. We've heard about this tower since 2022. He said definitively they're putting a shovel in the ground in Q3 of this year. All kind of press reports, whether it's Bloomberg or anywhere else. I came out with a column and did a report saying he's never going to do it. Will not break ground in Q3 under any circumstances. We are now in Q4, which means I was right in my call again. So this is my victory lap. Thank you, Ken. I heard an interview with you recently. You might not have made good decisions on your real estate purchases in terms of pricing, but you obviously have the wherewithal to ride them out. But I heard the CNBC interview. I'm very encouraged with everything you're saying because it seems like you're after fairness. And I think that's really what Miami needs. I hope we ultimately achieve surpassing New York as a financial capital of the United States. I highly doubt it. But that being said, I love the fight in you. Keep going forward. Next time, if you want some predictions about real estate or anything like that, I'd encourage you to reach out. I will not even charge you for that, but you are going to have to buy myself and Daniel lunch. So thank you, Ken. I'm sorry you missed your deadline, but I love being right.
Where do you have lunch, Peter? Where's the one place Peter has lunch?
Well, I would probably take him to the Oriental Market, which is a Lebanese slash
Wait,
Palestinian place.
we're not going to Flanny's? Are you still pissed off that they devalued your loyalty points?
No, well, I mean, Ken Griffin could buy Flanagan's. I'd like to take him to a place where he's got to roll up the sleeves. It's in the back of a dry goods store. You got to roll up the sleeves. You're sitting elbow to elbow with next to somebody else on like some sort of table and chair that looks like it should be outside because it's all aluminum. But the food is great, so it would be something like that. And if
Wait,
that didn't work,
I've never
it would
been
definitely be
here.
Flanagan's. What's that?
I've never been to the Oriental Market.
You haven't been to the Oriental Market?
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
even know what you're talking about.
so when you take Coral Way, so if you leave Ken Griffin's site, which is going to be on Biscayne, Brickell Bay
Yeah,
Drive,
we're looking at it right now.
in Coral Way. Well, if you show this on the map, it's going to screw it, but that's okay. So if you go straight down that road, which
No,
ultimately
I'm not going to show anybody where it is.
Yep. So if you go all the way down, just under I-95, right hand side, right next to where Paracones used to be,
Where
there's a little dry
Paracone.
goods store. Yep.
There's
Yeah.
Rosanella's was on the corner,
Yeah. But
further down that street.
yeah.
Oh no, you're talking about the new Paracones. The new
Yeah,
Paracone.
the new Paracones.
Yeah,
The new
I'm thinking about
Paracones.
the
Well,
old Paracones. Old Paracones
That's come and
is
go.
way
That's come and
gone.
go. Yeah.
So
But
by
on
like
that
Tutu
street,
Pizza, Tutu Pasta.
across the street, the other side, north side. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
There's an
All right,
there's a
sure.
place right on the
Ken,
corner.
let's go have lunch there, and then we can talk
And you're
about.
buying. You're buying though because our time is very valuable.
Listen, I want him to build it. I agreed with you that it wasn't going to happen in Q3. I think he will build it because he's not a Stephen Ross billionaire. He is a Ken Billions billionaire. So just like add a zero. Really, like what is Stephen Ross? 6 billion. He's 60. I mean, it's exponentially more. So he can build this $1 billion office tower, lose $1 billion, and so what? So he built an office tower. He had his first whack at it. Maybe he offloads it to Swire That's my conspiracy theory that I like to throw out there because Swire sold 30 million plus 200 million plus 500 million is just about the same price as this assemblage. Either that or the Mandarin Oriental's costing them way more than they bargained for. All things can be true, by the way.
Or they're selling out. They're moving out of Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Miami.
The ever pessimistic Peter Zalewski.
That's what they said about Ken Billions. When I said he wasn't putting his shovel on the ground, everybody's like, "Oh, this is Ken Billions. He can do it. He can do it." Well, here we are.
I think they're doing okay with sales at Mandarin, but we'll see. They're supposed to. I mean, they're supposed to start demolition on the hotel like now. They closed Brickell Key to non-residents, so you can't. We talked about this. We probably talked about this a few months ago. They closed it in the girlies. The girlies, reported by the New Times, were all pissed off because they couldn't do their hot mom walks, hot babe walks around. Can we say babe? Hot mom walks around Brickell Key. So more of a reason for you to buy in Brickell Key. And you know where you can buy on Brickell Key for cheap? Peter told me the other day, 3 to Cuesta, big discounts at 3 to Cuesta. It went down from
man.
What? Vintage.
Check out the vintage units.
Check out the vintage.
Yeah.
You can get a good deal. You just have to have the cash. Because a lot of times you can't get financing, right?
That's correct. So Ken and your team at Citadel, anybody who's down here on the ground, you guys need real estate advice, give us a call. That's all we're going to ask for is lunch. But you're going to have to dress down because we don't go to high-end places. Nothing good comes out of a high-end place. You need to get into the streets to understand this marketplace.
First of all, we gotta go because we've kept people here for way too long today. Or maybe the traffic's particularly bad. It's wet out there, so you might be stuck on 95 or the Dolphin if you're just listening to us. In any event, my name is Daniel Hernandez. I am a realtor with Compass. I am joined by my pal, Peter Zalewski at the Miami Condo Investing Club. Peter, when are you restarting your walks? Do a shameless plug real quick before we let everybody go.
November, every Saturday, 10 a.m., we do a walk or a bus tour, condo market.
Bingo. But it's still raining this weekend, so everybody stay dry out there. Thanks for joining, and we will see you next Friday, 4 o'clock live.